In this video I want to take a look at the small city of Holyoke, Massachusetts. I still don't know if I'm saying that right, but forgive me. Regional dialects and all. So let's have a look at Holyoke. A couple little tidbits of information jump out at me about this city. Was one of the early planned industrial cities, built in tandem with the dam. You'll see the dam in some of my photos. One of a handful of cities in New England built on the grid plan, which I thought was interesting. Let's check the demographics. And here we have a bit of a timeline, and I want to point this out too. A lot of people say, well, you know, the eastern seaboard of the United States has been developed by European colonialists, or whatever you want to call them, for 400 years now. But what I typically see in the explanations of these places is we don't really get any heavy infrastructure or built out until the 1800s, early 1800s to the 50s, and then beyond that, 50s to 1920 is that big boom, that big population boom. You can actually see it on this population chart here. This graph repeats itself from city to city. A massive amount of immigration being used to explain the surge in population and, of course, the boom in infrastructure. And we'll take a look at some of that now. And keep in mind, my channel really is, I don't claim to be an expert on any of these places. I'm sure many of you know a lot more about them than I do. I basically just discover the town and try to pick out the visuals that jump out at me and try to bring you what I find. I like these old street shots. Even just the background here gives you a sense of the feel for the time. This is a little bit of an interesting story too. This picture taken, this built in 1900 to 1905, we're being told. We'll get into this a little bit more of the Summit House. Here's an old opera house. I really like the shape of the roof. That's actually fairly unique from what I've seen in my research. We'll go through a couple. Of course, you're getting all the hallmarks here of the old world with the rail cars and the cones and the spires and the dental moldings and the arch windows. It's all par for the course. Look at the foliage on this building here and here. It's been growing there for a while. This is the interior of that opera house. I wanted to bring you this one. The detail of it, as I zoom closer, the detail seems to grow. Really incredible for what we're talking of, a small town on the eastern part of the United States. Just how decorative all this is. And the chairs too. It's a real shame when you hear them tearing these types of places down. It's ridiculous. Oh, here's a shot now of the dam we saw. Supposedly a construction photo. Getting a good side shot of the brickwork here, I suppose. And then take a look at all the banks. Let's see how you have this stone look here, and actually this down here is starting to look a lot more like that. And you have, this is factories on the river or canal type of town, and you'll see more of that in my photos as well. But keep this type of thing in mind when you're looking at these. Again, these are towns that weren't supposed to have been developed in this nature until the 1800s. The infrastructure, and we're looking at European style, what we think of as European style canals here. And interesting, the grid pattern idea. It kind of jives with the whole energy grid. If you're familiar with the work of Michelle Gibson, I'll put a link to her in the description. She gets right into the energy grid Earth, basically. How this old world was basically built and terraformed on an energy grid, and how that energy grid was hijacked and history systematically rewritten. This is definitely where her work is definitely worth a look. I find it very interesting, and whenever I come across a researcher like that, I think of them as brave. I think of them as courageous, going against the the common theme of the time, I guess you could say. I've always gravitated toward the Mavericks. Here we have the Summit House. This is interesting. This is a covered rail system that went up to the Summit House here. You see the roof system here coming down to a house down here. That's a unique feature as well, I've seen in my travels. So here you have that factory look, right? The big smokestacks again, big circular brick smokestacks. They pop up in breweries. I did a video on breweries. Check that one out if you're interested in old world breweries. Street scene here, this type of thing jumps out at me as well. Look at the finish on the inside of this archway here. Very old world feel right here. And then of course the arched windows and brick buildings, brick faced buildings. The awnings too. Awnings seem to be a common feature in a lot of these old world buildings. This is supposedly the construction of the aqueduct we were looking at earlier. Hard to make much out of that photo. Of course, they had an armory. Gotta have an armory. Not a great photo. You'll see more detail here, but this is basically a factory built right on the canal. So I do encourage you to picture the size and scope of the operation that gets something like this done. Even modern day. You allow yourself to have the excavators and the dump trucks, and just imagine the difficulty of that. And then, of course, what we're told, this come from a time when they didn't have that technology. And sure, they had some sort of steam technology. And is that supposed to account for the drop-off in manpower and technology that they had? I don't know. I look at this and I just see, and then here you have again an old photo, looking old. These all looking old and established, having been there a while. So, and of course you see the typical Antiquitech type features on the roof. This is you saw this in the beginning, photograph form. Really interesting building. Here's that rail car going up to the Summit House. And I just wanted to show you where this is actually located. So if you go into the eastern portion of the United States, you have Boston on the coast, and as you come inland you get to Springfield, Massachusetts, one of many Springfields. The whole Simpsons thing seems to come to mind. There's so many Springfields in the States, it's sort of ambiguous what state they're supposed to be in. I just thought that was funny. But here's Holyoke, right here on the Connecticut River. And like I said, I don't know a lot about these small towns. I'm just trying to bring you visuals and some ideas. There's the river right there. So Holyoke. Okay, we have the Mount Holyoke College, very interesting building. Rockefeller Hall, of course. Rockefeller's got to get in bed there. They need a place to sleep. Franklin Hotel, this one very obscure, hard to find anything else on this. And if you're doing any research on some of the stuff that I bring you and you find something, please share it with me. I'm interested to delve deeper into these places and subjects. Comment section, get it going. Very nice high resolution photograph here. Let's see if I can zoom into the street, really get a sense of life in that time. The horse and buggy, very typical. And of course the streetcar. They look so steampunky. Yeah, very sort of romantic vision there. Okay, we're going to do a lot of churches. I've been digging deep into a lot of churches of North America. There'll be more videos on those coming, visuals. No shortage of churches here in Holyoke. This is the City Hall, because why not, right? Of course, this 1877, they're saying this is built, and let's take a look at the Oh, okay, so 1877, right in this range here. About 20,000 people living here. And of course, if they didn't have the builders, I'm sure they just called in the super crews of building contractors that existed at the time across the continent. I'm sure they would swoop right into the town, whip up that city hall in no time, and be on their way. Here's a good look at the infrastructure here, right on the water. Look, we have a building on the water. This supposedly part of the Mount Holyoke College caught fire. Again, these buildings looking like they've been ripped right down. More to the story, probably looks more like a demolition to me. I guess they're saying there's a little bit of charring there. I don't see it anywhere else, but had a fire apparently. Numerous churches. I like this one too, sort of a snapshot. This is a really interesting church. Most of the pictures I could find of it were sort of shrouded in foliage. There it is. It's a better one. The shape of this, very unique. Very unique. Shape of that, not unique. You see that shape all over the place. These are all different churches from the same area. High school that had burned. I saw a postcard of that early on. Oh, seen that as well. We'll get past some of these. This is the Windsor Hotel on the corner. Street looking very dirty here. See all this chunks, the debris. Maybe there's a cleanup operation on the go. There's the Opera House roof, you can see back there. Sort of same spot. There's an archway. So the story attached here is that they built this aqueduct, Roman-style aqueduct, in this area, and then it came out of use when they brought in the dam system. So they're telling us that this was built and it was only used temporarily after the dam system came in. So you're looking at aqueduct arch style system here in Holyoke. I always like these too. You get a good idea of the buildings at the time. Date on this. $1881. And remember the demographics at the time, population demographics. Let's look at this lonely old castle. Castle on the hill, Kenilworth Castle. This is another theater in town. What a cultured small town this would have been at the time. To have a couple theaters. Of course they all had them, so much more cultured people. Old world. Certainly not the way we are today. Here you get another good look at that canal system. Alright, we get to the Mount Holyoke College. All red brick action going on, castles, crenellations at the top. This would be a mill. Entrance to the college. Lion Hall, part of the college. Very gothic looking. Still Holyoke. College, Mount Holyoke, sorry. Interior. More of the college. Interesting place to be sure. Not far from here, we've got a little bit more castle ruins in the forest. Why not? That seems normal for this area. Maybe these guys could tell us what was going on at the time. You wonder who closely escaped the asylum. How many of these are orphans growing up? This is church there. I want to zoom in on this. This catches my eye quite a bit. This is the type of arch you usually see at the bottom of a building, and you see this going on up high. This is really quite something. This is impeccable work here. Impeccable. Oh yeah, they have the Scott Tower. There's a park there now, apparently, and then it also contains ruins, castle ruins. More ruins in the Scott Tower Park area. If you're from this area or you've been to this area, please let me know more about it. And if you're going for a stroll in the park, you're going to find these bridges. You're going to find these type towers. It's also a church. Here. I just wanted to zoom in because this one was also very difficult to find with the two angel type figures on top. They switched these out to crosses. So I just wanted to show you that. That one really interesting. Certainly no shortage of churches. And they have a real thick immigration backstory to go with that. Immigrants coming over from Ireland, Italy, Germany, all over the place in Europe. And of course they had to have a place to worship, and they all knew how to build like this, and it just so happens that they built like that all over. Interesting, the old and the new. I like the old renderings too. Interesting to look at. Old public library, of course, gotta look Roman. So I don't know if you're getting a feel for Holyoke, what may have been. Here's the Scott Tower. Scott Park Tower. I like the street, direction of the street. This guy is waiting for some customers to jump on his horse-drawn streetcar, because that's how streetcars began. Anything before a certain date was pulled by horses until they figured out the whole electricity system. Before the World's Fair Wars, Tesla and Edison and all the rest of that AC/DC story. And then they can start to introduce electricity. This one too, feeling like somewhere in the UK for me. That stonework in the background. Church. Supposedly the canal under construction. Again, it looks damaged. I don't see how you would build like this and just leave these sections open. I don't see why would you build that way. It doesn't make sense. And then if you're laying the bricks, you have to make them meet somewhere in there. It's typically not how you do it. You start a run, finish at the end, next run, so on and so forth. Because you have to make sure that you have the right overlap if you're laying bricks, right, structurally. So that one makes no sense. Just like a lot of the construction photos, I'm happy to deconstruct the construction photos. I think there's a lot of monkey business going on there. Here's the Summit House again. Very unique situation, this one, right at the top. Sure, it was a nice place to get away. And there you kind of get a sense of what it's built of. Here you have, look at the foliage again on here. This has been there a while. Very old photograph. This has been there a while. This is I zoomed in on the details of some of the red brick buildings. This one, the Essex. Just to show you the type of detail we're looking at here. This is very interesting. It's not just stacking bricks. This is the Essex. Run down, ready to be torn down, no doubt. And then now, these days, you just have basically a whisper and a taste of what the old world was like. But if you're getting into this research and you're starting to see it and feel it, you're going to notice this popping up wherever you look. It's going to jump out at you and say, old world, that's old world. That's the YMCA. This one interesting, take a look at ground level again. Here's the door height, we're coming down, a couple steps. So this looking like, again, paved right up to an existing building, so mud flood evidence, let's say. Anyway, that's a little look at Holyoke. I wanted to bring you, I thought this was an interesting little town, so I just wanted to bring you some visuals. And I thank you for rolling along with me on this video. Take care.